Hello everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is John. I'm a full-time eBay reseller based in Melbourne, Australia. This week we're going to talk about shipping and handling, which is one of the biggest parts of our businesses as resellers. Before I begin though, I do want to apologize to those of you who have made me a part of your daily routine, who were expecting a video yesterday, which is Monday. And the reason I couldn't do a video yesterday was because it's still school holidays, both the kids are at home, and yesterday was mid-30 degrees, so we had to get the kids out of the house by about 11 o'clock because it got a bit too hot. They were needing to run around and let some energy out. And so essentially yesterday just didn't turn out as planned. I will do better at scheduling videos so that there is a more consistent output from me to you, and that I suppose when you expect a video, that there'll be a video there for you guys. So there will still be five videos for this week's theme on shipping and handling. But yeah, before I start, thank you so much for your understanding and allowing me to get you the first one today. So to start us off with shipping and handling, very quickly talking about who our suppliers are, which are the public supplier and the private, which means public just means Australia Post, if you're in America, USPS, if you're in the UK, Royal Mail. I think it's Royal Mail. And then private just means couriers and all the booking agents that manage our business to those couriers. So when comparing the two, the first thing that I need to note is that if your business wants to use one over the other, then you can make it work, right? You can build your business in such a way that you can make the choice of shipping partner the starting point and build a business around that. However, if you don't have a preference and we're trying to compare, then the best way to look at it is Australia Post, whoever the national provider is, provides general pricing, which means they are pricing the best they can to not lose money if everyone uses them to get from anywhere to everywhere within the same country. So if I give a parcel to them and I say go to this part of the world, this part of the country, they will have to make it happen. They can't say no because they also have someone over there that wants to ship something to somewhere near me. A courier, on the other hand, has specified routes that are very efficient for them, and so they will charge generally more competitively than Australia Post for those routes. The moment I want to get out of those routes and go even further away from those routes, they will still charge and they will still allow me to pay for them to do it, but the price that they expect me to pay is a price that will make me not want them to do it and just take it to Australia Post anyways. And then what will end up happening is there will come a point where there is a parcel that I bring to the courier will say, here's the cost to do it. If I bring to Australia Post will say, you know what, it's too big for us it's not something we will ship. It's something that we don't have any interest in shipping. It's something that we cannot insure. So there are very specific, little, obscure reasons as to why you might pick one over the other. But if we're talking just small items like toys and books and baby clothes, things that everyone and anyone will ship to anyone and everyone, for the most part, that's the difference. General will go anywhere, could be cheaper if there exists a very efficient route to get there. The way I learned about that was during the pandemic. I had a staff member who was living 20 minutes down from where I was along a freeway. And if I had sent them the inventory to photograph at their place via Australia Post, it would have costed me $25. But to send the same box with Couriers Please only costed me $9. Sending the same box with Hunter Express was $14. Sending that same box with Star Trek was $12. So because there was someone who had the most efficient way to get there, they were significantly cheaper than Australia Post. I think what it comes down to also is I know where I am, and in my staff situation, I know where the inventory was going to go every single week. So therefore, it was easy to go, here's what we do, this is our process. When you want to send something back to me, use this courier. When I want to send it to you, use the same courier. And then we also end up getting to know the courier drivers. But if I don't know where my buyers are going to come from, then generalist pricing probably is a better bet, because there's a good chance that on average that will work out to be cheaper. And then you add on to that the volume discounts with, MyPost business, where you can go from band 1 all the way to band 5. So we're sitting on band 5 at the moment, and it's very hard for a courier to beat band 5 pricing. majority of the time. So if that's the case, then on average, I'm going to be cheaper shipping to Australia Post with Australia Post anyways. So that's the first thing, where I am, and then where I'm going to ship to, whether there's a direct route versus the generalist pricing to get anywhere in the country. The other consideration is whether you actually have access to these services. So couriers generally involve the driver picking up from your house or you dropping off at a collection depot. Australia Post, post office. There are places in Australia where post office is not easily accessible, but a drop-off depot somehow is. And there are places in Australia where a post office is only open a certain amount of days, whereas the courier will still come and pick up from that location at the house. So depending on what's available to you, you could very well benefit from a lot of time saving shipping via that method. But once again, you got to balance it out with the cost of actually shipping from your location, right? If it's going to cost you a lot more to keep using couriers, you may consider putting in the effort of changing the way you structure your day so that you can actually make it to the post office and benefit from the generalist pricing. So those are two things. The third thing is the service. By service is something that isn't talked about much because we think that when we first start reselling, we immediately go, what's the cheapest so that I'm competitive? But then the moment something doesn't go right, and this has been the biggest issue with a provider like Sendle. So Sendle is like a booking agent that is notorious for their crappy service because they just can't seem to get the information that the sellers need to appease buyers. And I think that's where the tension generally is the highest. Buyer opens a case because they don't know where their items are. Seller has to go to the shipping supplier and go, where is my item? Tell me more. And the shipping supplier goes, I don't know more than you do, but I will find out. And then it's that waiting to find out. The best experience I've had with service from a I guess a shipping provider is Interparcel. So Interparcel, I use them whenever I use couriers to ship stuff overseas. I use them for big boxes that go nationally. And also if I know there is a direct route, I will just use Interparcel as well. And they will generally try and call the driver. They will try and call I will call them and then they will call whichever courier I chose, whether it be like DHL, FedEx, whoever, and get me some sort of an answer within 2 to 5 hours. Australia Post, I've noticed, even if you chat with them or call them, they will still go, we need more information, and then it'll be like a 2 to 5 business day wait. Sendle, yeah, whatever. So the point being is, if I have an unhappy buyer who wants answers, and I want the fastest way to get answers, and preferably answers that are useful so that they feel like I'm doing something and that they are justified in being more patient with me until I figure it out, that's when that service matters. So obviously if you go with the national supplier like Australia Post, you expect them to be reliable because they've had the most practice, they handle the most parcels out of all the players in the market. If you go with a particular provider like Couriers Please or Fast Track or whoever, like Star Trek or whoever, you're essentially taking a gamble on, I guess it's like if there is a bad apple in the basket of apples, there's a good chance I'll still get a good apple out of the whole basket of apples. But if I happen to stumble on a smaller basket, because this is a smaller basket and there are more bad apples in that basket, then I'm screwed. So I think that's kind of the difference. It's like there's the volume and the practice and the increased chance of it going well versus I may end up just using the worst supplier, not realizing I have to deal with them and learn the hard way not to use them again. So yeah, to me, that more or less is the difference between going with something like Australia Post versus using a courier. There will always be times when couriers will try and get the business that Australia Post has. And usually it'll be things like providing cheaper rates for more weight, providing cheaper rates, more weight, local pickup versus you having to lodge, coupons to try out for 3 months or for free or whatever. Yes, but fundamentally, they don't overhaul their drivers, they don't overhaul their network, they don't overhaul their routes to make that happen. So whenever I see those offers, I'm still like, well, fundamentally, you haven't changed. But you're giving me a short saving to try you, only to then not use you anyways. So that's kind of how I see those offers. So for me, when I kind of started to understand that, I realized that it was worth it to just go with MyPost business, because for me, all my items are under 5 kilos. So the flat rate shipping works for me. The discounts really make it worth for me. And then I realized if I'm going to keep growing my business and make use of the volume discounts as well, shipping pricing is competitive. The processes are streamlined for all my stuff. Then I'm really just breaking flow for the very occasional instance when I do use a courier. So that's my business. That's my understanding of the difference between using the national service versus using a private provider. There are some anecdotal differences too. One that came to mind was somehow when we ship stuff to, like we were shipping stuff to a couple of customers in the States they wanted UPS because UPS was a name they were familiar with, but somehow every time the parcels got there, they got opened and then they'd be held at customs for checking. They would ask for like a manifest of what was in it. We're not talking big, we're talking like, say 8 kilo boxes of baby clothes that had, 20 items in them. But they just kept getting held. So you'd pay for the express, it'd get there as if it was express. But by the time the buyer got it, it was like regular post. So they were like, is there a different supplier you can use? I'm like, well, you chose them because it got there quicker. So then we went with Australia Post, and Australia Post somehow didn't get opened. Like it would arrive, they would pay the express for Australia Post, which was more expensive than the express for USPS, but somehow it got there around the same time and the boxes never got opened. So I don't know why that's the case, but that goes to show like you do things based on your experience. And so then we essentially went, okay, every time we ship stuff overseas, we won't bother with UPS, we'll just go straight to Australia Post, and we will just do our best to assure our buyers that they will get it quicker, which they did. So yeah, what's your experience been comparing the two? I'm keen to know, because at the end of the day, I can only tell you what I know based on my experience shipping stuff. If you ship a different category of item, if you ship different volume of parcels, your experience will also be different. So leave a comment below how your experience has been between the two. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!